today we're getting back into watercolor, so let's dive right on in. Alright, to start off with, let's go over the materials that I used for this piece. Pretty simple, just my standard watercolor materials. So I used a Micron pen. I believe it was in the size 03. I used my Reeves watercolors, my Princeton brushes, and my Grumbacher brush. That's hard to say. And I used the Canson XL mixed media paper. So that's all for the materials. Yep, pretty standard watercolor stuff. I didn't really go all that mixed media with this one. So let's talk about the artwork now. So before I get into the methods and stuff that I used for this piece, I want to talk a little bit about the idea because it's a little bit obscure. I wasn't entirely sure what I was going with, and it's very much up to interpretation, but it's this woman in like fetal position inside a like glowing bubble orb of light, and it's sort of glowing off this tree. So it seems very peaceful. The color palette is a little bit somber, but also, kind of peaceful as well. So it could be interpreted as something, like a sort of place of calm, in like a happy place in, silence and, protection, that sort of thing. Or it could also feel like she was sort of trapped in this somber place. I'm not really sure. I love where it went and how it turned out, even though I know I didn't nail it entirely with the watercolor techniques and stuff, but I love where this piece went, and I think that it's even more beautiful because there is so much room for interpretation with it, because I didn't really have any expectations that I was forcing on it. And that's something that I do for art quite often. I have a purpose for drawing it, and I'm trying to get an idea across and, sort of show my perspective of the world in this specific instance. But here I was, I had an impression of an idea, but it didn't have a specific purpose, something that it was supposed to mean to everyone generically. So I think that it can be really powerful to have it mean something different for different people. So I think that that's sort of a beautiful thing that I'd love to do more of, just, having a quick flash of an idea that I don't have any specific reasons for doing or like an agenda, sort of just being free and open for myself, and, being open to whatever the viewer can come up with. Knowing, an important part of that is that, yes, it's up to interpretation, but what you interpret does not correspond with what I interpret. So it's not necessarily what I meant it to be. And that's something that I think people should keep in mind for, all pieces of artwork, that like just because you interpreted it in some way does not mean that that's how everyone is interpreting it and that's how the artist interpreted it. I think that we should, have a more relaxed view about it. So I really enjoyed that sort of freedom of not having to have my own expectations realized for this piece as well. So that was really freeing, and I loved the chance to just work on and try to understand the process of the artwork, which we should probably get to talking about. So the first thing I want to mention is the color scheme. Like I said, it's very kind of desaturated, somber, but it's not sad. It's got some bright colors in the form of yellow and some really nice blues and pinks, purples. So they're also not really supposed to be sad colors, which gives it a really interesting feel just looking at it. I really love how the color scheme turned out, and I did work with it a lot beforehand to make sure that the colors would work together, that it would give a good feel to it. I love that parts of it are very desaturated. Another thing that I tried to do with this piece was have a wide range of tones, so that it wouldn't just be all mid-tones or just all darks or all lights. So I have a range there, which is still something that I definitely need to work on, but I loved having that intentionality for this piece and working with it in the beginning. Having that specific goal was really helpful as well. So yeah, the colors, I just feel like they go really well, and they work with the piece, and they're an important part of the overall intention. That I didn't have a specific desire for what it was supposed to mean, but I did have an intention for what it was supposed to look like, and I think that it turned out almost spot on for what I was going for. So the other thing that I wanted to talk about in terms of the art was the use of a glazing in this piece. So if you don't know what that is, glazing is a watercolor technique where you layer a couple different colors, dry colors on top of each other. So you could have like a layer of blue, like a blue wash, and then you put a yellow wash over top, and you'd have a sort of green color underneath. Well, no, not underneath, but overall you'd have a green color. That process is called glazing, where you have two separate layers of dry pigment to make a new color. And I played a lot with glazing on this piece. I usually don't do a lot of glazing. It's something where I usually just mix the color that I want to put on and do it that way. But because I had this like reflection part, and I had to sort of figure out what that color would look like, because the like mountains reflected in the water, and it would have like part of the watercolor and part of the mountain color, and how would those mix and interact. So having the technique of glazing really helped. And then I also put the yellow color on top for the bubble, and that's also glazing. So it's a lot more layers than I usually do. I'm more of a just one layer at a time, sort of, I don't know, easier to get the colors you want down that way. But it's a really interesting technique to use, and it's a really powerful tool for like cohesion, to make sure that all your colors do work together. Because if you just mixed a sort of purple color to be that reflection in the water, there's no guarantee that that would be the right color to go with the purple of the mountain and the blue of the water. It just might not work. So having them layered, the actual colors that I used for the other elements, means that they definitely work together. So I really loved having that technique available, and I really enjoyed that whole process, and exploring more watercolor techniques. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this little watercolor piece and the fun explorations and ideas that I came up with for this one. So yeah, please subscribe and like if you want to. And until next time, live life respectfully. Bye.